Quiz 5 solutions, solutions to our chain rule quiz, in which you're given our 4 different functions and asked to find their derivatives. So the first one here, what I was hoping you'd recognize is that we have a product rule going on, because we're multiplying together 2 functions. The first of those 2 we've been referring to with an f, and it's x to the 7th power. And the other one, which we've been using g to denote, would be e to the 7x to the 7th plus 7. So really the challenge here is figuring out what we'll call f prime and what we'll call g prime. Because if we can figure out the 2 of these, we'll have all the information we need for the product rule, and it'll be the answer to this derivative. F prime, that's easy. Just using the power rule, I get that that's 7x to the 6th power. G prime, not so easy. To figure out g prime, we'll actually have to use another rule. We'll have to use the chain rule. So to figure out the derivative, what should I do? Should I color code this maybe? We want to figure out what goes down here. We need to figure out the derivative of e raised up to some power. And that power is 7x to the 7th plus 7. So my outermost function is e to the x, and my innermost function is 7x to the 7th plus 7. So when we're taking this derivative, what we first do is take care of the outer function. The derivative of e to the x is just e to the x, but I don't want e to the x. I want e to the inner function, being 7x to the 7th plus 7. But then I'm not done. I still have to multiply that by the derivative of the inner function, the derivative of 7x to the 7th plus 7. So finally, what I get here is I got this thing, this e to the 7x to the 7th plus 7, times this derivative. And this derivative is, what, if I use the power rule, I get 7 times 7 is 49. And then if I subtract 1 from the exponent, I got x to the 6th power plus 0, so I don't even have to write it, so I get this thing right here. So this derivative is this, so I can then put all the pieces together to get that f prime of x is equal to f prime, 7x to the 6th. Maybe I'll leave myself a little bit more room. F prime, 7x to the 6th, times g, times e to the 7x to the 7th plus 7, plus g prime, which is this thing over here, e to the 7x to the 7th plus 7 times 49x to the 6th times f. Can you simplify this? Absolutely you could. Don't know that you want to or that you need to, but you could if you want to. I think I'm going to leave it just like this though. This would be my kind of label things for the sake of somebody who's trying to look at these and understand. That's kind of my f prime, my g prime, and my f. And yeah, if you wanted, you could call this 49x to the 13th power. They both have this e to the 7x, both terms have e to the 7x, this term in them. So you could factor that out if you wanted. I guess you could factor out a 7x to the 6th. You could do all sorts of stuff with this. I'm not going to bother. I'm going to leave it just like this. Put a circle around this, or a square, I guess. Geometrically challenged. And call that my answer. And move on. So for this next one, what I want to do is find the derivative of something. And that something I'm going to express as something raised up to the 1/5 power, because I'm taking the 5th root of all this stuff. And what is being raised up to the 1/5 power? Well, let's see. I got a sum of 2 terms. One of those terms I'm going to write as sine of x squared. And the other of those terms I'm going to write as cosine of something. That something is x squared. I don't really like that color coding. I think this should be in blue here to make things correspond a little bit better. So I'll cheat and write over it. There we go. I think that'll make sense. So maybe those colors will help you see the chain rule that we're about to do. So when I take this derivative, the first thing I want to do is take care of the 1/5, the outermost function. So using the power rule, I get 1/5 something raised up to 1/5 minus 1 is negative 4/5. But then I'm not done. I have to multiply that by the derivative of this thing on the inside. And what is this thing on the inside? Well, it's something squared plus cosine of something. And the something that's being squared is sine of x. And we're taking the cosine of x squared. So what I've now done is taken care of the green. And so what I have to do is multiply that by, maybe I will go to red. Let's see, I got the derivative of a sum. The first thing in the sum is this guy. If I take its derivative, I bring the 2 down in front. And then I got sine of x raised up to the 1 power if you want. But then you're not done. You got to multiply that by the derivative of sine, which is cosine. So I get all this stuff. And then for my second term here, I got the outside function is cosine. The derivative of cosine is negative sine. So we'll make this minus. But instead of negative sine of x, I'm going to write negative sine of something. That's something being x squared. And the derivative of that something is 2x. So what you get for your final answer is this guy. These parentheses would be really easy to mess up. I don't know. You got to make sure all this stuff gets multiplied by all this stuff. But you only want the cosine, for example, to get multiplied by this, not by this stuff. So it's tricky. It's tricky to put all the parentheses in right. But this is kind of the idea for that one. All right, moving on. With the 4's problem, I guess. Take this derivative. Okay. Well, there's probably some stuff you can do and rewrite this, but I'm not going to bother. I'm going to say it's 4 times something. So the derivative, really changing my notation on every single problem, h prime of x is equal to 4 times the derivative of this thing. And what is the derivative of this thing? Well, x to the 4x plus 4 is something we don't know how to do yet. I should probably change this to an e instead of an x. So let me do that. There's an e right there. Okay, now at least I can do it. Okay, so the derivative of this first term, I'm going to write this out a little bit better. It's 4, this is an e, times the derivative of e raised up to some power plus 4 raised up to some power. And the power that e is raised up to is 4x plus 4. And actually the power that 4 is raised up to is also 4x plus 4. But I'm going to change color when I write those to really illustrate that what's going on is I got some chain rule. All right, so I get 4 times something. And what is going to be in this something? Well, if it were e to the x, my derivative would just be e to the x. So I'm just going to write e to the, but instead of x, I'm going to write 4x plus 4. But then I'm not done. I have to multiply by the derivative of that 4x plus 4, which just happens to be 4. And then to that, I want to add the derivative of this guy. Well, if this were just e to the 4x plus 4, I'd write e to the 4x plus 4, but it's not. It's 4 to the 4x plus 4. So I'm going to write something very similar. I'm going to write 4 to the 4x plus 4 times the natural log of 4. So let me fill in what I need. 4 to the 4x plus 4 times the natural log of 4. And then I still won't be done because I'll have to multiply by the derivative of the stuff in blue. So I'll get another 4 right here. So you could rewrite this, and I might even say you should rewrite this. I mean, it's pretty ugly the way it's written right now. But I'm going to leave it in this form because I think written in this form will be easier for you to see where all the different pieces came from. This right here is the derivative. We'll call this good and move on to the last one. All right, down here in the last one, this is actually probably the easiest one on the quiz. It's just several nested sine functions. All right, so on this last one, let's see, I'll figure out the notation as I go. I want to take the derivative of this whole guy. And really all you have to notice is that the outermost function is sine. And I'm taking the derivative of sine of something. And since the derivative of sine is cosine, the derivative of sine of something is just cosine of something. What is that something? Well, in this case, it's a big mess. It is the sine of the sine of the sine of x And then I'm not done. I've just taken care of this one. So I have to multiply that by the derivative of the stuff in blue. And to take the derivative of the stuff in blue, what I say is, well, the derivative of sine is just cosine. So the derivative of sine of this stuff would just be cosine of this stuff. I don't really know if these color selections are making sense, but whatever. Hopefully me talking through it will do the trick for you. So what I've now just done is kind of taken care of this second one. What I have left is the stuff in red here. And to take the derivative of the stuff in red, well, the derivative of sine is cosine, as I've said. So the derivative of sine of x is cosine of sine of x. I guess I'm cycling back around to green. And so I'm still not done because now I have to multiply that by the derivative of the stuff in green. The derivative of sine is just cosine. And so you get some mess. Well, I won't even bother. You get that as your answer. Probably a little overboard. I think if you could have done 3 sines, you can do 4. So it might have been a waste of your time to do 4, but what are you going to do? That's the end of the quiz. I'll stop the video there.